Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Episode, I think this will be 103. Got a couple things in the works, all this stuff. Uh, Pleasure to have my guest on the show today, Mr. Mike Bramante, comedian, and he's hosted the Do Less podcast. It's really
Franklin,
funny
nice to be
stuff.
here, man.
You can check it out. Where can they follow you at, my man?
They can follow me at Mike Bramante on all socials, Instagram, Twitter, just Mike_Bramante.
He's a good follow. You guys want to check him out? He's a good comic. I got to meet him in person. I've been following him for a long time, but I got to meet him in person when I was in the city last week or so. And then good guy, great hang. Had to bring him on the show, and I've been a fan of this Do Less podcast that you have now. And I told you before the show that I'm gonna be like a subscriber, an all-time listener, because I had to listen for research purposes. The whole inception of Do Less. How did you come up with the idea of like, man, I hate people that do the most. I want to do less.
Well, I very much appreciate that. I'm glad you're going to be a listener. It kind of started off where, so me and this other comic, Jake Velasquez, a great comic here in the city, we would do comedy a lot together. And, we would walk home after, like this summer, we were doing a lot of outdoor stuff, and we would walk home and just kind of like walk and talk about our philosophies on life and everything. And
Right.
we just, we kind of realized we had similar philosophies, and like everybody's just trying to do too much. They're trying to be so much. Everyone on Instagram's like an actor, philanthropist,
Right.
venture capitalist.
Right.
It's like, just settle down. All right, take it back a notch and really do more of what you do want to do and less of what you don't want to do. That's kind of the underlying message. But we obviously play up a comedic angle of also doing less actually can be very like a very good strategy to be successful.
Truly.
Areas. Yeah.
Truly. Like I have it in my idea and my big book of ideas that the stand-up stuff pops off. I'm only going to come out with like 6 hours in my whole lifetime. I'm taking like 3 or 4 years in between each of them. Might go, vacation in like the islands somewhere. That's what I'm doing less.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, it's quality over quantity, right? I mean, like, there's been some comics who put out more, like a special, like every year, right? But I think a couple years between, you put out some hot special. I mean, if we're lucky enough to ever do that,
Right.
It's quality over quantity, right?
Right. But I think the beauty of the modern comedy game right now is obviously we know that for the longest time Netflix or whatever was just handing stuff out to anybody. But you saw these really good comics in the past couple of years that said, whatever, I'll just do it myself and put it out there. And like, Morel, Norman, and all those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like I'm a big believer that you got to create your own opportunities, and you can't wait around for people to give them to you. So, those guys are obviously, big names and amazing comics, and they put their specials out on YouTube and got millions of views. So It's like, Netflix should have given them a special, but if they're not gonna, hey, I'm gonna do it myself.
Exactly, man. But how do you think we as comics are are gonna be able to like do less but also succeed? Do you think it's just right. Like playing up being a cool guy?
Yeah, I think cool guy. I mean, it's all about confidence. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like me and Jake joke about on the podcast, like the best, like jokes are like the last thing you should tell. It should be riffing. It should be act outs and voices with smoke and mirrors. And that's like, we're obviously joking because me and him are actually, big joke guys, and we don't really do much of the other stuff, and we want to push ourselves to do more of that because it is a performance, and you got to add to it, right?
Right.
But we both work really hard at stand up, but the thing is, it's comedy, it's jokes, it doesn't feel like work. So to us, it feels like doing less because comedy is just so fun that it doesn't feel like work ever. You know what I mean? So if you're able to be a full-time stand-up comedian where like that's how you support yourself, that's a do less lifestyle.
This is so philosophical, and it's ironic because in one of your most recent episodes, you were talking about how like modern philosophy is just all one big scam. And you're absolutely right. I find myself agreeing with your show all the time.
Well, it's true. I mean, if you look back, I think the point, we made is like everyone's just repackaging things that have already been said, right? And so, and a lot of philosophy is along the lines of, kind of do less. Let go what you can't control what you can. That's a big, it's a big component of philosophy.
I'm on and I like I don't look up self-help videos. I
Yeah.
don't look up this or that. But for some reason, I'd say one 30-second of my TikTok timeline is
Yeah.
these guys that get up there with a whiteboard and they're all like white dudes that have a muscular build and they have like the same haircut. And they're up there with their marker and they're just like, so the way to attract people is by pulling away from them. And it's like he always talks about
Yeah,
doing
I've
less.
seen those videos too. That's yeah, no. I mean, those guys clearly don't know. They're not attracting people. I don't
No,
think.
it's all one big scam, bro. And
Yeah,
you see these suckers, and I'll call them suckers, that
yeah,
sit there and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this guy changed my life." Like you never hear people that listen to what's his name, Tony Robbins.
right,
You
right.
never hear people that listen to him and are like, "Oh yeah, I was homeless and like I hated my life, and then I listened to him on YouTube and like I'm happy now." It's people that are like mid-level, like in life. The people that are mid-level in life listen to him and think that they're like gonna become CEOs. That's funny to me.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we talked about, I think, life coaches on our last episode, and to me, that whole thing is a huge scam. I mean, it's just, again, guys like him and him, they're just repackaging generic thoughts that,
Mhm.
or just general advice that other people
Yeah,
have given, and then they're going out and selling it and making millions of dollars off.
yeah.
But it's
It's
just because they're
all
presenting it with confidence and they're presenting it with, hey, you're going to move from mid-level to a CEO if you follow these guidelines. And it's like, you don't, it's all nonsense to
it's
me.
all nonsense. But you're
Yeah.
absolutely right though that it's all repackaged and it's all rehashed. And I'm noticing that with like just society as a whole, is everything has been done before. We look at every TV show or most jokes now, I feel like have been done before. So it's
That's
all
the tough thing is like with, social media, Twitter, just comedy's been around so long. It's really hard to have an original thought, right?
everyone's a comic now on Twitter.
Everyone's a comic on Twitter. Everyone's a comic in everyday life.
It's true.
You try, you want to be funny, and that's the thing is like with comedy now, it's so hard to have an original premise. But you
Mhm.
hope you can execute the joke differently than somebody else has
Yeah,
told it, right? And that's why comedy has gotten so personal too. It's because like nobody has your personal story, right? So that's
exactly.
why I feel like that's a way to differentiate yourself now, because like all the observational stuff, although I'm very much a fan of observational humor and I like to
Yeah,
try
me
to
too.
have
Yeah.
some, it's hard. It gets getting harder and harder to do.
I think you're on point there. Um, Kevin Hart had he had one of those sit down things with one of these life coach guys. Okay, and
Yeah,
I saw a clip of Kevin Hart on there, so I was like, all right, comic, I'll watch it. And he said that some guy in his early comedy I don't know, career, he was in
yeah,
Philly doing a show, and everybody thought he was funny. They came up to Kevin after the show. They go, "Yeah, you were really funny tonight. Yeah, you were really cool." And then the guy who was like his mentor in Philly go, "Oh yeah, well, what's his name?" And nobody
yeah.
knew Kevin's name
Uh-huh.
because he didn't tell a story. It wasn't personal. So I think
Right.
we could take a page out of that playbook. That's one thing I try to do. When you let me up there and you let me get on the show at the cupboard, I told like 3.5, 4 minutes of about me being from West Virginia and growing up in
Yeah.
West Virginia and having religious parents and stuff like that. Just try to make it like
Yeah.
this is
So people will
my
remember you. You stand out.
yeah.
It's neat. Yeah.
And I also have to apologize because I got the tape back and I think I went a little bit over and I apologize.
Come on. Don't worry about it at all, man. No,
It
absolutely
it did it ate me up a little bit. Like I was driving back to West
not. You
Virginia
got
and
nothing to worry about at all. Don't even sweat it. I would have given you more time. We had a bit of a packed show and there's like the whole curfew thing with New York and everything. But yeah, no, don't sweat it one bit.
the curfew boys hit it to the minute. That's there's the what's the curfew in doing shows in New York?
I think it's still 11. I don't. It might be. Yeah, I think it's technically 11 p.m. now.
It's funny that you say like we only have a certain amount of time to do shows because one of my favorite artists, John Mayer, I don't know if you're a fan of John Mayer at all, but he
Yeah,
has this he has this thing about like how he can time it out perfectly and like hit the last note and then it's like 5 seconds left before like the I don't know what you call it, the curfew ends, and he calls him and his whole band are the curfew boys.
I
Pretty
love
funny.
that. He's a comic. He'll go up at the at the Cellar, right? And just play around and stuff. But
I'd
he's
love
not
to
a
see him.
stand-up, but he's a funny guy
Yeah,
and kind of like in the stand-up community a little bit.
I'd love to see him to do his thing. I know he had those Controlled Danger shows with Chappelle and everything. Now, talking about doing the most and doing the least,
Yeah,
have a guy like that who's like he's a musical genius and he's really
right.
funny, but he he doesn't like bombard himself into the comedy world. He kind of like stays on like the outskirts and does his own thing, and
Right.
it works.
Right. Exactly.
So this is what you're talking about when people say on Instagram, "Oh, I'm an actor, I'm a voice, I'm a comedian, I'm a this, I'm a that." And it's
Right.
like they don't really delve in deep into one thing.
Yeah. Also know what your strengths are, right? And don't spread yourself too thin, but do what you're good at and do what you like doing, and hopefully, you can find where that kind of intersects,
Yeah.
and then you're off to the races.
I
Hopefully.
think one of my favorite comics to watch is Maniscalco. And
Oh, me too.
maybe he isn't like set up punchline, maybe isn't the best, but his ability to like just sell something, like he sells you on the material.
Yeah. So it's funny you say that. Like he's legitimately one of my favorites, and you're right. It's not like if you look at the writing, it's not gonna on the page. It's not always gonna make you laugh. But
Right.
the way that you're right. The way he sells it. I mean, it's the act outs are incredible. The guy's twinkle toes up there. I mean, I don't know how he's doing any of that. It's an act out every bit, but also the voices he does, the faces, and he's got the whole Italian American thing, and he really hits that to a T. I mean, I'm part Italian. I grew up in like upstate New York in a town called Endicott, where there was a big Italian contingent.
Nice.
A lot of Italian. So he like really hits that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm not Italian at all, but
Yeah.
I just appreciate a good comic like that. And I've honestly tried to do more act outs and be more theatrical with my on stage presence. And I think it's come across all right. I know it's tough whenever you're in a mic with 10 comics. It's tough to fully go
It's
all
tough
act
to
out.
especially do it at a mic.
It's tough to do it at a mic.
It's weird. You feel weird doing it at a mic, and you feel like people are judging you. And there is something to like, oh, I'm just cool, laid back, telling jokes. I'm not like taking this too seriously. There's some of that aspect. So it's
Right.
hard. It's hard to do act outs at mics. But you gotta do them. It adds to the performance, and people really like when you paint a picture. And that's what Maniscalco does. Like he can pretty much say anything, and he doesn't act out, and people are losing their minds. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it is something that I didn't totally feel comfortable doing, and I'm just starting to do some of it on stage. But I think you gotta change up the voices. You gotta make facial expressions. You gotta do act outs where you can. When I first started out, I wasn't even thinking in terms of where can I do an act out with this joke. I'm just trying to write a good joke.
Yeah.
But you gotta. It's all part of the process of getting better.
I've been told like all this, because I've been doing comedy since I was like 2021, but like, with all this stuff going on, that was my first experience in New York doing comedy. I've done comedy in Philly, Pittsburgh, all these places, but up there it's like totally different. And Rinaldi, and I'll name drop, I don't care if you think it's bad advice. He was just telling me how like being up there in New York, you have to be so much quicker with your jokes. Like you have to go joke, as opposed to like, here's a joke, here's a whole act out thing. Like he thinks it should be more like concise.
Yeah, I think you could do both though. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to be an act out every bit like Maniscalco. But I do think like the jokes per minute or whatever, I think that is kind of like a New York thing, like set up punchline, get as many as you can in there.
Right.
But also mix it up a little bit with with some with some act outs. It does add to the bits, and it adds like a little rhythm and flow to the performance. You know what I mean? And there's different ways to be funny too. Like like a Sam Morril, he's like machine gun jokes.
Right.
He's one of my favorites, but it's just like one after another, and it's very impressive. And he's just not really physical at all. You know what I mean? It's just the jokes. But then there's people who kind of do a mix, and so you just got to find what works for you.
Morrell killed me the other day. He put up this clip on his Instagram. It was like a animation clip of like some like white knight in Cleveland or something like that. Did you see that?
I did, yeah.
Those are the experiences that I feel like you only hear like comedians have. Comedians just have these crazy experiences because they perform at these weird bars and clubs and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was the whole story about performing in Cleveland, and then he meets some weird guy afterwards, and
He's the
it's hilarious.
guardian. He's like the watchful protector of
Yeah,
Cleveland.
he's like he's the guardian of Cleveland, self-proclaimed.
You're talking about Maniscalco being Twinkle Toes. It's ironic you say that because I have his book. I'm looking
Yeah,
right at it, and he said this I think in interviews before, and somebody had asked him like in a comedy club, like, how do I become more animated on stage? How do I
yeah.
become more theatrical? All he tells them, Michael Jackson, Munich. That's it. He just says
Yeah.
Michael Jackson, Munich. And I've watched that Michael Jackson Munich thing 3 times. So Michael, it's this massive, it's like a soccer, I don't know, stadium and the massive stage out there. And he's controlling the whole stage. Every part of it is being used by Michael, just dancing, selling the whole
Right.
performance. Michael, you can basically tell after song 3, he's not even singing at this point because like you can't do all that singing and all that dancing, but he just sells the performance.
Right. That's what it is. I mean, that's hilarious. I've never heard that quote, but obviously that's what it, I mean, in order to have a whole stadium captivated, you
Right.
can't just imagine just like standing there telling jokes. You're not going to be able to do it. Right. So you
Right.
gotta do more stuff. You gotta put on a show.
Right.
And I listened to Mark Norman's podcast where he talked about opening for Jerry.
Oh,
Felt that. I don't know if you listened to this. It was at one of the theaters in the Upper West Side. The name is escaping me right now,
is
but
it Beacon?
so yeah, the Beacon. So it's a bigger theater, right?
Yeah.
And he tells the story about he did the first set and it went well, but went good. But then like in between shows, Jerry was like, you gotta command the stage more. You gotta walk from side to side. You gotta be more performative. And so he did that like the second show and he killed, right?
Mhm.
So it's like just because sometimes when you're performing stand up, you might be at a bar show or a club and you're standing on a tiny stage. But when you're on a theater,
Yeah.
you gotta do the Chris Rock, walk back and forth. You
Yeah.
gotta prowl up there and take over the space.
Yeah. Michael Jackson Munich.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Maniscalco, I mean, he sold out MSG like 6 nights or something like that. And then he went and sold
Yeah.
out the Forum in LA. Crazy, man. But
That's exactly. I joke around with some of my comic friends here. I'm like, the only way to sell out theaters and arenas is act outs.
and I am now adding more act outs to my act after hearing that. It's so crazy, man, to think that Norman's opening up for Seinfeld because to hear Seinfeld say he was on a Mets broadcast and they're like, hey, who's like a younger comic that you like?
Yeah.
And he's like, I like this guy, Mark Norman. And like, that's absolutely incredible. I actually listened to that podcast. I think it was a Tuesday's episode.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest, I don't listen to that show often, but I did listen to that one. And Mark walking out there when he shouldn't have walked out there.
Right.
I got secondhand.
I think there was
embarrassment on that one.
something with like you didn't give him a light or was giving him no light or something, so we kind of had to estimate the time he was on stage and maybe he left a little early and it was too early, so we went back. And that's just one of those things. Like I feel like you should just give a light, let him know how much time.
That's true. That's true.
Like I don't understand why there has to be that sort of like you should know what 15 minutes is or whatever. Because
oh, really? Is that
I think that's kind of
trope?
what it was, but I don't know the whole story, but like to me, it's like that seems sort of a weird thing that Jerry was controlling, where you could just give a comic a light and then he knows when to get off.
I'm with you. I'm with you there. Gotta have the light. And you can be like me and run it, and it'll be a great show for everybody. The cool guy aspect of this whole seems to be an underlying theme, and the irony of being a cool guy is that the people who are cool don't try to be cool.
That's it. So they're doing less. They're not trying to be cool. They just are cool.
Exactly. So how are you, like, and I hate to completely switch gears here, but the whole Do Less podcast, I listened to a couple episodes and you had this one segment where you're talking about trying to be a cool guy on dating apps. Can you tell me some of your maybe lines or some of your techniques to being a cool guy on a dating app?
Well, I don't know if I don't have any to be a cool guy because I am not a cool guy on the dating apps, but I feel like I'm a pretty cool guy in life in general. But when
Okay.
it comes to things like you really want or get excited about, sometimes you're not so cool, right?
Right.
So I think the story I was telling on the podcast was, when you get a match you're excited about or you really are interested in a girl or whatever, and like you maybe you have a little bit of a back and forth, but then they go silent, and then you try to
Yeah.
like over the top again with another message. Never works.
Oh,
I
I
mean,
might actually have to pull up my Hinge right now. I gotta pull up my Hinge right now.
and sometimes I'll try like like make a joke about it, like like I miss our conversations, or like you're right. Let's just skip the small talk and go grab a drink,
Right.
and that's like I don't think it's ever worked, but like I feel like it's a good strategy.
So here's me trying to be a cool guy. This girl, she's really cute. Um, Apparently she has a really good job, and that's what it's all about because
Yeah.
I'm the artist and she's the breadwinner.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
And she said I love Hinge. Are you on Hinge at all?
I'm on Hinge. Yeah, it's the
Okay.
best one. Yeah.
It's the best one because we get to actually talk, and that's what we're good at as comics. We can say
Yeah.
words. She used one of those, what is it, prompts,
Yeah.
and it said what I order for the table. She said spinach artichoke dip, and I
Mhm.
said, here was my like a response or whatever. I said, solid choice, but hear me out on this one. Next time you go to a breakfast spot, order pancakes for the table. Thoughts? And she goes, you're an absolute genius, sir. And I said, I have heard that before, probably because I'm full of great ideas.
Yeah. That's great. This is unbelievable.
Setting
Yeah.
it up for her.
Yeah.
I've laid it up for her to dunk it. And she goes,
Yeah.
any more great ideas? Oh, well, this is a layup. And I said, I have a couple in mind. How about we trade numbers, get to know each other a bit, then you let me take you out sometime.
I love it. Never heard.
Ghost.
Yeah.
Never heard back.
Listen, man, I have a million stories that are exactly the same, where you have a nice back and forth, you're joking around. Yeah, because I'll do the same thing. There's a prompt and you respond with something witty. You have a nice back and forth. Then you ask for a date, never hear from them. And I don't know what it is. I think it's like easy. It's like there's a couple things. Here are my theories, right? It's like it's a good idea to go on a date with a stranger until you actually have to do it, right? Because then you feel weird.
That's
you're like, I
fair.
don't know this person at all, whatever. The other one is like it's just easy to dismiss a digital person, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So and there's no, so you can't take it personally. It's just like this.
I was planning my wedding with this woman, Mike.
Well, I know. Like, listen, I've been there. I think we're two peas in a pod here with all this, but that's just what it is. And I've talked to my friends about it. You can't take it personally. It happens to everybody, and that's just the nature of it. It's weird. I don't get it, but it's all part of it.
It's heartbreaking. And I was planning our lives together, and we were gonna have this gorgeous life where she earned all the money and I just joked around all day, and it was gonna be great.
Listen, that's exactly what I'm looking for. We got to have breadwinners,
Yeah.
and then we'll just be stay-at-home husbands / comics.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
But you're right, though. It is easy to dismiss digital people.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole idea of the app is dismissing. And I'm really picky. I assume you're a really picky guy.
Yeah. Mhm.
You dismiss like 80% of the people on there.
Yeah, of course.
Like
yeah,
I'm not looking to like someone. I'm looking for a reason to not like someone on there.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Yeah, I think we're, I'm getting to know you a little bit more. I think we're pretty similar here.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean that's the you got to also think like an attractive girl, right? She has so many options.
I know.
It's just flooded with like hundreds, if not thousands of likes. You know what I mean? It's just
anytime they swipe right on a guy, it's a match.
Of course. Yeah, they've never not swiped right and have it not.
And it got a match.
Yeah.
So how do I stand out? By not liking them.
Right. Yeah. Not like them. And then they chase you.
Yeah.
But here's the thing is like in the mindset of do less, you got to have less expectations, because I've fallen down this trap where I'm like, I'll even go on a date or two and it's going great. And I'm projecting, we're going to be together forever. You know what I mean? And like she's the love of my life. And then it just ends. You know what I mean? Like no kind of rhyme or reason.
Yeah.
And, that happens. So you got to just go into it with, unfortunately, you got to keep a little bit of your guard up and be like, this can end at any moment. I'm just going to enjoy it while it lasts. Hopefully it lasts longer.
Right.
But You gotta keep up with the possibility that it could just flip.
I have not, like, because I'm back in West Virginia hiding out in the woods.
Yeah.
I have not went on a formal date in so long. I don't even know what I'm going to be doing next time. Like I'm on a date with somebody. I'm going to be scrambling for
Yeah.
ideas.
Yeah. Well, you just got to ask them questions, to keep deflecting, let them talk. And listen, I don't have any idea what I'm talking about. It's not working out for me. So,
No,
don't
but
take my
I think
advice.
you're onto something there though, because people love to talk about themselves.
Yeah,
So
they
just
do.
keep asking questions.
That's why people love therapy, is because you just talk about yourself.
Oh my
And then,
gosh, I'm in
and then,
therapy right now.
yeah, me too. And the therapist, if you even ask about their lives, they just deflect and bring it back to you. That's a great thing.
The funny thing is, I was in therapy for like crippling anxiety and stuff like that,
Yep.
and hypochondria and stuff like that. Beat it, dunked on it, moved on.
Right.
And it was like stress of moving back in with my parents. I had heartbreak. I had this
Yep.
and that. And, I've beaten all that stuff. And I'm telling him all my thoughts and ideas and this and that. He essentially said, I've never been wrong about any of my thoughts or why things are the way that they are, which does not help.
Yeah.
Because now we're developing an ego issue.
Right.
And it's all one big ride. Oh, you have an ego issue? Go to therapy.
So you've never been wrong. What does that mean?
It's not that I've like never been wrong about anything, but like I'll tell him, hey, this is why I'm having an anxiety attack. Here's what it is. I just don't know how to stop it. And and I said, like, my issues stem from X, Y, and Z, and it's a whole combination of every problem that I've had in the past year as to why I'm here now. So that's like, I know what was causing my problems, which is why I said I've never been wrong. And he's like, oh yeah, you're right. You're right about everything,
Well, you're self-aware of what caused the anxiety and everything, and that that helps you identify your problems and tackle them. Well, it's great to hear you've made a lot of progress. It never ends. It's an ongoing thing.
It's an ongoing thing, I know, and I'm trying to get out of there. Like I was asking him a couple weeks ago, I was like, realistically, how many more meetings do you think I have? And he goes, oh, I'd say 2-3 more. Is it always 2-3 more?
No, well, for me, so I specifically started going because I have OCD, and like I was like got to a point when I was just like taking over my life.
About
like,
what things are you particular about?
So my biggest theme is like I'm afraid of death. I'm afraid of death to myself, or afraid of death to my family or loved ones.
We might be the same person.
Yeah, I think we are.
Death is my biggest fear. Death is my biggest fear.
So I would, yeah, of course. So it's so I would do a lot of rituals, like trying to prevent death from happening. You know how crazy it sounds, but like, whatever shirt I would wear, or like just count it, doing things a certain number of times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All superstitions, all rituals.
I'm not Catholic, but I would bless myself before I went to bed.
Right. Stuff
what
like
is that?
Yeah, right. Exactly. So you're trying to find a way to control things that you can't.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
So I, I was in therapy. I still am, but I started doing it because of that. Diagnosed within nanoseconds of being there that I have clinical OCD, and then I worked on skills and ways to expose myself to the risks and just accept that life is uncertain.
Yeah.
Right. And actually, in the past year, right when kind of around the pandemic started, I started taking medication for the first time. And I'll be honest with you, it's been a godsend. Like I can't even imagine. I couldn't imagine life being this good.
Wow. I avoided medication.
In terms of the OCD, it's very much under control now. Like I was going from ritualizing hours a day to now, 5-10 minutes.
Oh, okay. That's good.
So like, it's not completely gone. And so that was kind of the point I was going to make, is when I first went in, I was like, I want to get rid of this from my life. I want to be free from it forever. Like, I just want to go in and get it done. Kind of what you're saying.
Yeah.
But what I learned very quickly is like, it's going to be part of me, and it's something I'm going to live with, and I'm going to manage on a day-to-day basis. But now I'm managing like the best I ever have. And it's like a small part of my life, when before it was like overtaking my life. So and just like accepting that, like, it's always going to be there, and it's an ongoing process, and it's going to ebb and flow. I think can benefit you.
So the biggest thing for me and death, and not to get too serious, it's the absoluteness of it all.
Of course. Yeah.
And no one, like, we have ideas. My father's a pastor. We have ideas and we have hopes and dreams that it'll be something, but we
Right.
don't truly know until we get there. And just the uncertainty coupled with the absoluteness that it's forever, that like would wear on me. Like I would stay up at night just terrified.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's a finality of it all, right? And it's just like you don't. It's really sad to think about, and it's just you don't
Yeah.
know what's going to happen. You like to think that, like you said, that there's an afterlife, but then you're like, you start to think, maybe that's really illogical to think that way, and it's probably just lights out, and you have all those thoughts. And
Lights out makes sense because like there's this whole thing that's like, hey, do you remember what it was like before you lived? No. Oh, there you
yeah,
go.
exactly. So logically, I'm like, that makes sense to me.
But I
I
just
like to
love
have like a belief deep down, that there's something after, but I really don't
I
know.
just love life so much, and I love like
Yeah,
getting up every day and like being able to like feel my feet hit the ground. And I've been working on the reciprocity of gratitude and being
yeah,
thankful for like everything because I was a very negative person for a long
yeah,
time. And like now I go outside and I'm thankful that the sun rose, and like I'm thankful that the grass is there, and to like feel that really weird stuff, but I'm thankful for it. And it's just like now I love living so much that
yeah.
I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't
Yeah, you want to
imagine.
take advantage of it the most you can. I
Yeah.
mean, but that's a great philosophy to have now, that you can, appreciate the little things. And, that's the whole thing is like, being in stand up too is like, we're kind of like seeking being in the moment, right? Like
Yeah.
on stage, we're not thinking about anything else, right? You're just kind of in that moment of doing stand up. And so you kind of like continually seek that feeling. But not to get too corny and whatever, but like that's what life is all about. You don't really, can't change the past. You don't know what the future is. You got to enjoy the present moment.
Yeah. And you can buy Mike's get help soon. Whatever.
Listen, I'm just repackaging everything that, therapy has taught me, that philosophers have said. I'm repackaging it. This is not original thought
Yeah.
here.
So another thing that you were talking about in an episode of Do Less was the morale booster, and
Yeah,
how you don't even necessarily have to be great at your job. You just have to be a good person to be around, and you're safe.
that's key. That is key. Again, it sort of goes along with that coolness factor. Don't
Yeah.
try to be cool, just be cool. But if you're good, nice, fun to be around, maybe you crack some jokes, you boost the morale, you're an essential part of the team. All right. You don't have to be the smartest, or the best at Excel, or the best salesman, or whatever. You're an essential part of the team if you're fun to be around. And I worked in sports business world for 8-9 years,
Oh
and
wow.
I my job got cut during COVID, and I had a client reach out to me. This is probably the nicest note I received. That he was like, the more I've been in the business, the more I realize like you want to work with people that you like being around, and
Yeah.
you are one of those people. So
Man.
that like meant the world to me, just to like, again, like you want to be that person. That's fun. You got to have that.
Yeah. I did the same thing when I was in the sports game. I was like, the job that I was had with professional baseball scouting was a lot of video stuff, a lot of data analytics, stats and stuff like that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm an idiot. So like, obviously I can't like do the calculations or anything. And like, I'd say my baseball knowledge was solid, but like, I think like lack of effort was probably an issue
Yeah,
because
yeah.
baseball, same thing every day. And like, I'd say through spring training, I'd say once the All-Star break hit, like after that All-Star break, I was phoning it in big time. But I was such like a joy to be around. I'd like, walk around the
Right.
office. Hey, what's up, Tommy? What's up, Billy? How are you
Yeah, yeah.
doing? How's this, that? Let's all hang out after. Let's all go here and get a drink or whatever. And like they loved me. I was the office funny guy. And
Right.
so September rolls around. Some people have to leave for various reasons. And there's these things called like September call-ups for actual baseball. But
Uh-huh.
for us and our job was like, will you get extended to do these games? And like it honestly took to like like August 30th for them to like send me the offer, be like, all right, you're coming here for one extra month. I really think it was just because I was fun to be around.
Right. That's great. That's a cool experience. being a baseball scout. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, my name's in a book. I have a lot of friends that still work.
Can you say what team it was for?
I worked for an agency, so like
Okay.
most of the big league teams used the scouting agency I work with.
Okay. All right. Nice.
But my
great.
name's in a book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with my co-host of the Do Less podcast, Jake. He works at a real estate company, does commercial real estate, and he was like, he dropped out of college his freshman year because like this. He's like, I met these guys that work at this company, and they're like the smartest people I've ever met. And he's like, I'm tying myself to these guys, you know. And
it's a big
he's
jump.
successful in his own right, but he's like, you know, I was the office school guy. I'm fun to be around. You know, he does a good job, but like, you know, he's fun guy to have on the team, you know, fun guy to be around.
I'm a locker room guy. I'm a locker room guy.
Gotta be a locker room guy.
I'm not gonna wow you. I'll be the 13th man off the bench. I'll wave the towel, you know.
Right, exactly.
Did you study sports market or sports management at your college?
But just business. I was actually American studies and business. Yeah.
American studies. That sounds cool.
That was cool. So it's basically like a mix of like politics and history and just all. It was a lot of writing papers, but all about American history.
Cool. I studied multidisciplinary studies, and now I'm unemployed.
Yeah, well, here's the thing though, is I don't like how we get pigeonholed really on majors. You know what I mean? Because it feels like I like companies that have an open mind of like, you know, let's just hire a smart person because you can learn any job on the job.
That's true.
I mean? And so like if I ran a company, that's what I would do because you know, you don't know. First of all, picking a major when you're 17, 18,
right.
You know, like you don't know what you want to do the rest of your life, and then you feel like you get on a track and you're down that path and you don't feel like you can break off from it. I would encourage people to try to break off from it if they want to, and employers to facilitate that happening. But you know,
absolutely, I changed my major when I got there. You know, I was a 18-year-old kid who liked athletics, and you see sports in a major, you're like, oh, I'll do that. And then I got there, and I was like, oh, I'm definitely not doing that. And then I changed it to, oh, I want to be like this hard-hitting journalist and ask these really intriguing questions to top people. And it's like, oh, I don't want to do that. So then I was like, okay, well, now I just need to graduate. I've taken all these classes. So I did like multidisciplinary studies, which is 3 minors rolled into 1 major. So I did communications because I already had that one completed, public relations, and entertainment media. And that combined all my interests. Like I love entertainment and I love talking to people. And my first job out of college was in baseball. It's so weird how it all works.
Yeah, I mean, and you got, I think that's the thing, man, is you got a degree, you did some things you're interested in, you know, listen, you're a fun guy to be around, you're a smart guy, you can do what you want to do, you know, comedy's that thing, you know, you just got to keep going on that path.
That's right, man. We're locker room guys. We're
going to be locker room guys. Hopefully that works out in comedy. There's not really a locker room. I guess there's a green room, but
the green room guys, the good hang guys. I don't know if that sells though. You do want to be a good hang, and not to, you know, obviously I'm not going to name names, but like, you know, I got up there and I got to meet some of these people that I had maybe seen online or maybe like had never even like met before. And most people were really cool, but there was a couple people that were like, honestly, were like, that you could tell they were like homeschool kids. Like they just didn't know how to like communicate.
Yeah, there's certainly an aspect of that. Like there are a lot of comedians who have a lot of social anxiety or just like can't even, like the only place they can function is on stage.
Yeah, know? It's and so crazy though.
Yeah, and like, you know, so in some maybe you're just standoffish, you know, you get all personalities, but I mean that's the crazy thing is, you know, you're gonna encounter people like that in comedy, but you want to be a cool hang, you want to be a fun hang, you know, but that's what makes it fun. This whole thing is supposed to be fun.
It's fun. Right? Your job is like laughing and being goofy.
Right. So when me and Max book shows, we book people that we think are funny and that we like.
Yeah.
You know, so because we want to hang out with them.
Yeah. So, well, hey, you know, I'll be back up in the city. We'll get on.
Yeah, we'll hang.
We'll hang. We'll be locker room guys. You, me, and Max. Max is a good hang too, man. Really funny guy. He was on my show not that long ago, and I think we talked about. I don't know if we talked about rom-coms or not, but I know that's one thing that you and I have a shared interest in is rom-coms, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
So
rom-com guy.
We were talking about how you wanted to be what was the term? Something professor?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So an adjunct professor. So that, again, like that's That's do less because you're not a full-time professor. In order
Exactly.
to accomplish your dreams, you got to keep them realistic, right? That's one.
Exactly.
So an adjunct, I would like to be like sort of an expert. If I'm a successful comic someday, I would like to be recognized for that and be like, hey, come teach a comedy course or a class on rom-coms because I'm an expert on rom-coms. You know what I mean? So I'll come in, I'll be an adjunct professor at NYU. And maybe it's affiliated with the university, maybe it's not. Maybe I just run it across the street, at a coffee shop. But it'll be near campus. And
the funny thing, I'm seeing here though is like you and I both love rom-coms, and then we're also talking about like how unlucky we are with like the dating recently.
I think that might be.
Are we building
romantics? We're hopeless romantics, and we have too many expectations, and we fast forward the relationship too far in advance before it's even anything. So that's why we got to do less, keep our expectations lower. We got to be less eager, and we got to flip the tables. Even if you're so interested in the person, you gotta maintain some control.
It's like golf. Do the opposite of what feels natural, and you'll do well.
Right, exactly.
This is crazy, man. So give me, you got like at least a top 3 or a top 5 rom-com list?
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you some of my favorites, right? I mean, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Okay. Yep. I'll stop you there. I love that one.
Classic.
Absolutely love that one.
Yeah. Amazing. I mean, McConaughey and Kate Hudson, that's a phenomenal one. I did do an IGTV series for a while where I would review some rom-coms. So I got some of my favorites on there. Some of the more recent ones, let's see. Oh, I mean, When Harry Met Sally is classic. I mean, that's
foundational. Yes.
I feel like you got to watch that before you watch any other one.
It is the OG. Absolutely.
Right.
And I can't believe this from 80s entertainment. They tried to make Billy Crystal like a sex icon.
Right. And Gary Gulman has a good bit about this where he's like, well, Meg Ryan, at her Meg Ryanist, she's really going to be into Billy Crystal, who's like a 5'4" bald Jewish guy.
He's like, hey, you hear about the Yankees? Yeah, it's crazy.
Right. But you know what Billy Crystal had? And he had confidence. And that's everything.
That's true. I actually need to watch that movie again because I love Billy Crystal, man. He's awesome.
It's foundational. Yeah. I also have a bit where it's like, the central question of that is, can men and women just be platonic friends? And it's like, yeah, of course, but not if one of those people is A-list actress Meg Ryan. So you'd have ulterior motives, I think.
Right. One of my top ones is Pretty Woman.
I love Pretty Woman.
Love Pretty Woman, and it is the PG version of American Psycho.
Right.
Because this rich businessman takes this sex worker off the street and just locks her in a room and like wines and dines her and dresses her up nicely and doesn't let her say or do certain things. It's American Psycho.
That's American Psycho. I mean, that's a psychotic thing to do.
Right. And like there's like that no kissing rule or something like that. What even is that? We can have sex, but we can't kiss. Very weird.
Like that movie. Julia Roberts, she has some similarities in looks to my mom, so that's why Julia Roberts movies.
Now I'm gonna hold off. Now I'm gonna hold off on what I was gonna say. Now I gotta hold on.
It's not like exact, but people have said she looks like her a little bit.
Because she descended from heaven to make that movie because she's an angel. I love Julia Roberts.
There's some similarities, but. Yeah, what other? I mean, some of the recent ones I've liked, they're a little bit. I mean, the breakup is great, phenomenal. I don't like how they break up at the end of it, but it's hilarious.
Do you think they get back together though?
I think they probably do, in the future. But that last scene where they see each other like a couple years later,
and
it's so indicative of like, oh, you had a long-term relationship with somebody, and then you run into them on the street, and it's a little bit awkward. And it's like, we lived together at some point. Why are you acting like you don't know me?
She's like, Brad?
Yeah.
Brad?
Right. But like that's what happens in real life, which is just a very weird thing. Because obviously you don't really know how to act. But like it's like put a pit in my stomach. You know what I mean? I hope they got back together. But
dude, well, I should have come more prepared for this episode because had I known you were as this into rom-coms, I would have done something where you and I could have just created a rom-com where we'd say, all right, these are the leads. Here's a couple of the side characters. And here's the plot, go. And then we could have done that, but
I'll tell you a few other quick ones. Crazy Stupid Love, phenomenal movie.
Okay.
Ryan Gosling. No Strings Attached and Friends with Benefits, basically the same movie.
That's the
but
same movie. Yeah.
very enjoyable. You know, they're not the best movies in the world, but I put them in and they're fun and they end up together and we walk away happy.
That's true. That's true. Now, that streak that McConaughey was on and talking about the professor who isn't a professor and talking about rom-coms. And I'm a big fan of McConaughey. I also have his book right over here.
I was been meaning to get that.
It's good stuff because it's a collection of like lists, poems, and stories. It's a really unique, book. Big fan. So check it out.
Yeah, no, I like his whole vibe. I joke around with my friend Ben Kirschenbaum, another great comic. McConaughey said one of his pieces of advice is break a sweat every day.
Yes.
And that's in my mind every day. I do that most days, or try to do it most days, but he's in my head telling me to break a sweat. Until I do, I'm not satisfying McConaughey's advice.
I do it because my anxiety just makes me sweat. So I do sweat every day. I actually, if you want to call it philosophy, I'm pulling it up right here. He I was in college, sputtering around, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And he delivered this commencement speech at Houston. And
I watched some of this.
It's called the 13 Truths. And there for like throughout the rest of like my college years, I would work out and I would run really long distances and like have this 13 Truths playing in my mind and stuff like that. I'll read off a couple here. Turn the page. So that's a good one. So it's just like move on with like bad things to your life. Happiness is different than joy. So us as comics, I tell people this all the time, that we have to pursue our joy, which is making people laugh. But happiness is like a get rich quick scheme, and joy. So we have to find joy in the process of doing the work. So let's find joy in the process of writing material, find joy in the process of doing a mic in front of 7 comics or a room of 12 people that all speak different languages. Let's find joy in that. So that way, when we do really well, we just get more out of it.
Right. Exactly.
And a couple more here. Define success for yourself and don't leave crumbs. Oh, I love don't leave crumbs. So don't leave crumbs essentially is like, don't choose anything that'll jeopardize your soul. Don't be an idiot,
Right. Yeah.
Don't leave crumbs.
I actually watched this the other day. I watched most of it, but I think they're all great pieces of life advice. And he's just one of these guys that's, I was also watching another interview with him, which is kind of a one to do less thing. It was with Larry King. And he was like, when you watch yourself on screen, what do you look for? He's like, well, I don't want to see myself acting. And he's like, Larry King's like, well, you're acting, aren't you? Aren't you acting? He's like, you gotta be, but you're acting, but you don't want to be acting. Like you just want to be natural, you don't want to be putting it on. You don't want to be doing too much. You just want to be natural on screen. Like it's everyday life. You want to be McConaughey.
Right.
So, I really like his vibe. I think he's got a lot of great advice. I would watch that commencement speech. You'll feel very inspired afterwards.
Yeah.
But,
there's one version that has like really good, like a Hans Zimmer score behind it. It's good stuff. So check it out.
But his run of rom-coms, what do we got? So we got How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. We have Ghost of Girlfriend's Past.
Wedding Planner. Fool's Gold.
Yep. Failure to Launch.
I love Failure to Launch. A couple more, so here's the whole story, and I'm sure you know it because you're a big McConaughey fan. And I feel like you and I are the same person. When we like someone, we have to know everything about them. So I could tell you, I could tell you all about his parents and stuff like that. But so he took a couple of those years off, and they actually offered him, like they kept coming back with bigger and bigger offers to do another rom-com. And he's like, no, I want to do more artsy stuff. And then he comes out and he's just like, boom, here's Dallas Buyers Club. Boom, here's True Detective. Boom, here's Interstellar. And it's just like, oh my God, like he had real talent.
So again, he kind of like broke off from that path that was defined for him. Like he's the rom-com guy, right? But he wanted to do more. I mean, he wanted to do drama, and he wanted to do some other stuff, right? Because he had done the rom-com thing. He wants to do another thing to keep it interesting and challenge himself and seek that next thing, right? So I mean, it was a risky move to not, turn down a lot of money and try to do something completely different. Because he was getting pigeonholed as the rom-com guy, but he's like, nah, I can do more than that.
Yeah. But he did more by doing less. because he took the years off,
Right.
and he did less work, and then he's like doing more. It's
Exactly.
so crazy how it all comes full circle, because
Everything is all do less. Yeah, it's all
he
do
did
less.
like Killer Joe and
Yeah,
Bernie and a couple other ones, and then started really doing the big ones that we were talking about. Have you seen True Detective?
I've seen True Detective.
Okay.
Great. His philosophical character there, Rust Cole. I mean, his
Yeah, very philosophical, very nihilist. I don't know how to
yeah,
say it.
very nihilist. Yeah,
Yeah.
like nothing matters. It's all just you know, it's really all we like. Human consciousness is something should have been never given to us, and we're all
Yeah.
meaningless. You know, like,
It kind of scares me a little
yeah,
bit.
it's too dark.
It's interesting to hear, and it's like good dialogue for a TV show because it's such a good character dynamic. But like,
Right.
people will sometimes take that as life advice. You'll read articles or like weird posts on the internet, and I'm just like, dude, just like, don't base your life off of TV characters. That's doing the most.
That's doing too much. That's doing too much. Enjoy it for what it is.
Because at the end of that
Yeah.
like season, he ends up being like, hey, like now the light's starting to win. Like,
Yeah,
okay, maybe
he actually flips, right?
Yeah.
Where he's like, yeah, it's he has a more positive spin on everything, right?
Yeah. Do you have rom-coms aside, do you have a favorite McConaughey film other than the rom-coms?
Other than the rom-coms, I just watched Interstellar the other day. That
For
was
the first
phenomenal.
time?
For the first time. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
I've always looked at it and I was like, it's 3 hours long or whatever, and then I don't want to watch it. Then I watch, a season of New Girl. So
yeah,
I mean, I just watched it to begin with. But I really like that one. Man, I mean,
you need to have that. You need to, like, now that you've seen it,
yeah,
you might need to watch a couple of like what really happened videos on YouTube.
I did
with Neil deGrasse Tyson.
It was a bit confusing. Yeah.
But Christopher Nolan in his movies where he has these weird timelines, it's all one big thing. But so you need to have like yourself a night, maybe like dim the lights a little bit. Maybe I don't know if you drink at all or anything. Maybe don't get hammered, but have like one or two and just lock in to this wild ride that is Interstellar, and then try not to cry whenever he like sees the fact that he's like going through years and years and years and his family's getting older but he's staying the same age. Like,
it's tough, man. Yeah.
Try not to cry.
That's Dazed and Confused. They should pull the line from Dazed.
That's true. Oh, they get older and stay the same age. That's funny. That's funny.
Maybe that was the beginning of Interstellar.
Who knows, man? My favorite McConaughey got to be I'm looking at it. I have a poster of it. We Are Marshall, because that was shot.
That's great.
That was shot in West Virginia. That's where I'm at, and that's where my whole reconnaissance, you know.
That's great. Yeah, that's a great film. I don't think I've ever seen Dallas Buyers Club, which I know he won the Oscar for.
Love that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he's fun. I'm a big fan.
Now, however, he's made a lot of bad ones, and I watched Serenity, horrible. I watched what's the one? Beach Bum. It was a bummer.
But here's the thing: is like, not everything's gonna be perfect, right? It's like, it's like anything with stand up. Not all your jokes are gonna hit.
Yeah.
But people are going to remember you for the marquee ones.
Right? But he said, like, he's got these movies that he says in the can, meaning a good thing. He says, I got these good movies in the can that I've done. Now I can just do ones that I want to do.
Well, yeah. So maybe that's another do less philosophy that we have. If you do a lot in order to eventually do what you want to do less of it, but just do in order to set yourself up for the future. We're okay with that.
Right.
So you put in all the work for stand-up now, and hopefully you're stand-up later.
Exactly. And speaking of stand-up, we have to get into this. We'll close with this. We got a few minutes here. We have to talk about your comedy career, how it all started and everything, man. Like, what's your background? When did you start all this stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm probably going on 3.5 years now. So in the grand scheme of things, I'm still early on. But I was always
3.5 New York time though.
3.5 New York time. So 3.5 going really, really hard at it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So getting a lot of reps, and I feel like I made decent progress in 3.5 years, but still a long way to go. But so it was one of those things where I was always a fan of it, and I always wanted to be kind of in the comedy world. The creating content. And for a couple of years, I was, trying my hand at writing some scripts, writing a couple pilots, just like in my spare time, doing that sort of thing. Took a couple screenwriting classes, so I was always interested in that type of stuff. And I always felt like I was a funny person that could write and create funny content, and I would make my friends laugh and everything. I never necessarily thought of myself as a performer,
Right.
but then 3.5 years ago now, I just went to an open mic. I'm like, I'll check it out, see what's. For a couple of years I was like, I'm gonna do this, and I never did it. And then I finally got up the courage to go to attend one, and I saw people do it, and I was like, I can give this a shot, right?
Nice.
So then week or so later, I had a whole act written out, like word for word. I recited it over.
Oh,
and
yeah.
over.
Oh, yeah.
And so I get up there and I got a couple laughs, and it was like, okay, now I got the bug,
Nice.
Just kept going, haven't looked back. So, and I feel like I've progressively gotten better, and you hope that's the case. I hope I'm better than I was a month ago or 6 months ago or
absolutely,
a year ago. Man. And it's all with reps and getting more confident and get more stage time.
Yeah, and that's truly it. Like I said, I've been doing stand-up since I was like 21, and I'm 25 now, but I'm like, you combined all those years where I'm doing weird spots at hole in the wall bars in West Virginia or Pittsburgh or Philly when I have time doing baseball stuff. That equates to probably like 1.5 years in New York time. So it's like, even though I have quote unquote 5 years where I write jokes,
right,
like I don't have the stage time to fully go at it. And it's crazy how it all works out like that.
Yeah, those are the two things you got to do, right? You got to keep writing, and you got to perform the jokes. So and that's how you build the material, right? And the only way to do that is to get as much stage time as you possibly can, and keep writing in the process, and try to use the mics in the shows effectively too.
Like,
here's the other thing: is you can't, if you got some good stuff, you got a good 5 or a good 10 or whatever, all right, bank that and then try some new stuff.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
You got to take some risks, or you're not going to build.
When everybody, when they're starting out, sort of does impressions of comics they admire, who were the comics that you admired that you were almost subconsciously doing impressions of?
I think that's true. I think you pull from people that you like, right? My favorite comic, Gary Gulman.
Mm-hmm.
He's just, I love just the wordplay, the vocabulary, the cleverness of the jokes. He's one of my favorites. I think a little bit of Seinfeld. I like the observational humor.
Right.
I was always a big fan of his and pointing those things out. Larry David, I know he's not a stand-up, but he's like my comedic idol.
I love LD. Love LD.
So those are kind of like my inspirations. Again, like Judd Apatow, I know he's kind of a stand-up, but like he's just like the kind of the content that he has of like a mix of emotional and funny stuff. Like those are kind of like the vibes,
the dramedy.
That I have on stage. So I'm pulling from people that are not just stand-ups, but like just kind of like they have the same humor as me, the same sentiment.
No, man, inspiration can come from many forms. It doesn't have to be from just solely stand-ups. Like one of my favorite inspirations as an entertainer is Dean Martin, and he didn't do set-up punchline, but even though he was kind of a comic for his time, he didn't really do set-up punchline.
Right. No, exactly. That's the other thing too, is there's a lot of different ways to be funny,
Yeah.
So like we said, you can be more performative, you can be more joke teller, play a character. Impressions, like there's a whole different, that's what makes comedy so great though. And then you're putting together a show, or you go to a show, it's almost like jazz where you got all sorts of different tones and different things at you, and that's a fun show.
I think it's kind of funny that it all comes full circle here, because you talk about how much you love Larry David. I too also love Larry David, but like that is a guy who has epitomized, where I'm going here. He has epitomized doing less.
Right, exactly. He doesn't do anything he doesn't want to do, right?
At all.
Right, like he doesn't want to take a tour of the house at Susie's. He doesn't want to go to a dinner party he doesn't want to go to. He's just like,
no. Why would I do? No.
So that's what he says. I'm sure as like he in said interviews and stuff, he's like, that character on that show is my idol. That's how I wish I could live. Obviously, he's not as mean or as like, he will do those things in real life, right? Like he will go to the dinner party he doesn't want to go to, or he will do this when he doesn't really want to. But like that would be like his hero, is to somebody who'd be like, no, this is stupid. I don't want to do it. Just leave me alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny, man, because he would do Seinfeld every year, and every year he'd hope, man, I hope we get canceled so we don't have to work anymore. It's like, and
he's a do less icon, and we've talked about. We haven't done it yet, but we got to do a whole Larry David episode, because me and Jake, again, that's he's both our idols. Like,
yeah,
that's who.
Isn't it true that like Larry did stand up a couple times and just like berated the audience?
He did. So there was a couple times, where he got on stage and he looked at the audience and he just left because he knew it wasn't gonna go well.
I mean,
he just like looked at their faces, didn't like the vibe, and left. And so like that's unbelievable.
I like it. Did he write for SNL?
He did, and that the funny story about in Seinfeld, when like George quits his job and then goes back and pretends like he didn't quit, that actually happened on SNL, where they weren't taking any of his sketches. So he quit, and then he showed up the next week on Monday or whatever, just pretending like it didn't happen.
Like nothing happened. Dude, they're shooting, or they're like wrapping up or something like that. Curb right now for the new season or something like that. Richard Lewis, right? Yep. Love Richard Lewis. I think he's only gonna be in one episode, which is a bummer because I love his and Larry's interactions.
Oh, it's great. And I think that's how they interact with each other in real life. It's just so natural.
Yeah, I love when it's like, say they'll be at dinner or something like that, and Richard will be like, no, I told him I would get the check because and then they have this whole like
you could just picture them doing that in real life,
Yeah.
Like and again, they're not really, because that's another thing about Curb is it's all improv. Like they set up the situations, right? And you got to like maybe hit a plot point or something, but nobody even really knows the story. You're just improvising the scene. So again, that's do less too, because it's just like, let's just be natural here, free flow it.
I love the most recent season, but I remember there was like that one episode where Larry wouldn't get to sit at the hot people table or something like that. Right, and he was like, I should be sitting over there at the, it's a whole thing, man.
Exactly. Yeah.
You got any top episodes of Curb that we can leave the people with here? You got any episodes that you always go back to?
Oh man. Yeah, there's a couple episodes that the car periscope episode. I don't know if you remember that one. That's unbelievable. That whole season when he's in New York, I really love that. Man, I've seen them all multiple times. Anything with Leon, when Leon starts getting in the mix, that whole season with the Blacks.
Oh, I love that.
Love that. Chemistry is just unbelievable.
I like when Larry like has like the heart attack or whatever, and he passes out on the floor.
Yeah, right. So yeah, any season, I'd say Leon. I mean, they're all amazing, but like Leon and above, like season 6 or 7 and above, it's just it's phenomenal.
That's great, man. Where can the people follow you at? Tell them to plug whatever you need.
So I'll say Do Less Podcast with me and Jake Velasquez. You can find it on iTunes. You can find it on Spotify. On social media at Mike_Bramante and TikTok, I guess, Mike Bramante Comedy. Trying to build that a little bit. Put out funny videos.
Heck yeah, man. I'll give you a follow on there.
But listen, man, I really appreciate you having me. We're the same person. I'm glad we found that out. And I look forward to having you in New York so we can hang out every day and become best friends.
I am looking forward to it. You can be the best man at my wedding. We'll have a whole Curb Your Enthusiasm theme. It'll be great. All right. Hey, remember to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, @Franco'sWorld_. Subscribe to the show, all that stuff. And keep taking care of yourself. See you, everybody.